Good day, everybody. How's it going? Oh, what is this? What is this? Oh, I got me my new glasses. They look exactly like the old ones. There's not a lot of I tried to look for if there's any different styles with larger jumbo glasses, and unfortunately, you only really got the one style. Because these are supposed to be party trinkets that go on your face and look really big and goofy. But they work really well on a fursuit. So, but anyways, I bought a new pair, and whoever found the pair at Anthrocon and had fun with it, have funsies with it. You know, spread the nerd around. Spread the nerd around. Spread the four eyes around. So, anyways, back on. We're now that we got our glasses and that we're ready to go. Let's talk about the topic that we're going to talk about this week. Sports! Wait, why am I talking about sports? I just got my glasses back. I should be talking about something nerdy, man. Something that I know. It's like, nope, we're talking about sports. Particularly esports, which is about the kind of place where the bridge between the nerdy and the non-nerdy sports thing goes in. So, hey, it's not all the way sports. So, anyways, interestingly enough, for those of you who are not aware, if you've ever been to one of the furry research panels for Fur Science, they do study. They're basically studying fandom and its impact on social culture, and people's abilities and people's self confidence and things like that. One of the interesting things is that they have a control group with furries, and interestingly enough, they had to really look hard for a control group because furries seem to be a little bit everywhere. And the control group they found was sports fandom. Seemingly, there's not a lot of overlap between sports fandom and furry fandom, which is always interesting because now we have one of our own making a name in the esports things. Basically, the fighting game genre, and that would be Mr. SonicFox, who is shown here pictured with Goichi, I believe his name is, known as also Go1, as you can kind of see in that little emblem on his little shirt there. That's his tag name. Like SonicFox is this guy's tag name. His actual first name is Dominique, apparently. So what happened over this last weekend was SonicFox got gold, or got number one at the EVO Evolution Championship Series for the Dragonball FighterZ with a Z contest. And interestingly enough, there's a lot of interesting things around that particular thing, and that is SonicFox has done a lot of lifting his weight in the fighting game genre of sports. As you can tell, this is not my area of expertise, so I had to go back and read a whole bunch of things. He was last year at EVO. He brought in the Injustice 2. He won the Injustice 2 EVO Championship Series. So basically, he changed games from this year to this year. Injustice 2 also had a tournament this year. SonicFox did participate in that tournament. He did get third place. This is despite him sort of going off of that game a little bit and moving on to Dragonball FighterZ. Fighters with a Z. It's not pronounced FighterZ, it's pronounced FighterZ. Alright? So, that is really cool that he was still able to maintain such a dominant position in that thing, even though he wasn't really focusing on it. He's very prolific. He's very known as very much a prolific player. His introduction to the fighting scene apparently was like many years ago when Mortal Kombat 10 was the big thing, and he was considered, a lot of people called him the elder god of that particular game too, because he dominated a lot of contests dealing with the fighting game Mortal Kombat 10. He also did some Skullgirls game. I don't remember the name of the exact game off the top of my head. He won a tournament for Skullgirls, which is a very, very different style of fighter game than most of the mainstream ones. He's dabbled a little bit in Smash, but he never really went whole hog into that particular genre. But he does love the fighting game genre, and it shows, and his passion for the game and his ability to prolifically catch up with it has made him a household name within the esports industry. For his team, which he's part of a team called Echo Fox, which apparently is not named after him. It's actually, and this is one of those weird nerdy things I went and looked up before this video. Apparently it's named after Rick Fox, or the owner of the team is Rick Fox. When Rick Fox took over the team, they renamed it to Echo Fox. Rick Fox apparently is an NBA player who played for the Celtics and the Lakers in the 90s to early 2000 range. The early noughts. So from the 90s to the early noughts. So while we were up raising in high school, the future person who would own a team that would be dominated by a furry dude, it's a weird world, man. I don't know. I'd have to go back. Maybe it was. I wonder if Rick Fox made a appearance as being a member of the Celtics on NBA Jam, the old Genesis NBA game. I don't know. Like I don't know Rick Fox, and I don't know if he was that popular, or if he was a well-known household name. It does seem like he had a prolific career in the NBA, so. Like, just from looking at numbers and things, but I don't know, like, I didn't know the guy's name before me looking up all this stuff, so, but I'm not a sports nerd, all right? I don't know much about sports, so unless your name's like Michael Jordan or Muhammad Ali or Babe Ruth or Jackie Robinson, is it Jackie Robinson? That was the first African-American baseball player, I believe that was his name. You know, like, unless it's like a real standout name for social or like really, really prolific players. I really don't know. So I know the name SonicFox, and it's not just because he's a furry. Well, maybe it is because he's a furry. I don't know. But so it's interesting that this has happened. But the game, the finals also had an interesting little tidbit about people complaining about this flow of the game and things like that. So what ended up happening is this. EVO's rule is a double elimination, which means that people play and they fight one another in brackets, and basically whoever wins moves on, whoever loses goes to the losers brackets, basically, and takes on other people. As soon as you lose twice, you're eliminated from the tournament completely. So Goichi had lost during the matches. I think it might have been SonicFox and him met early on, and then SonicFox won that match, so Goichi went to the losers bracket. I think. I don't know. I don't know that earlier part, but I know Goichi lost a match somewhere. Eventually, Goichi made his way back to the finals, and he was against SonicFox, who was yet undefeated. At that point, SonicFox played player 2. Goichi played player 1. There was no objections to this. So they played their matches, and SonicFox got raffle stomped. Pretty good. He lost all 3 of his characters without the other guy losing any or something like that, or they lost all 3 matches of the set. And so he didn't get raffle stomped, but he got beaten pretty good. So what ended up happening is they were going to have their final match. Basically, whoever won this one wins it. Whoever loses, is out. At that time, SonicFox said, "Well, I want to be player 1." And so how it works is apparently this rule works is since there's 2 players and there's 2 positions that you could start in as player 1 or as player 2. Because of how fighting games are usually created and programmed, most human players are used to playing player 1 position and starting on the left side of the screen and fighting inwards, whereas the player 2 starts on the right side of the screen and goes this way. Now, it's only really a moment before, because as soon as you start jumping and doing all this stuff, you switch sides anyway. The best way I could put it is sort of like chess, where it's synchronous. It's a synchronous thing where you're having sort of synchronous, things, and it's a game of skill. But there is a moment of asynchronicity when it deals with the white pieces get to move first, and the black pieces move second. In the early parts of the game, it does affect how you play, but as you move on to later stages, that difference doesn't really matter as much anymore as certain situations arise, and then it becomes more of the skill of the player. Similarly with fighting games, it really is only a moment that one person starts on the left side of the screen, the other person starts on the right side of the screen, before things get flippy, topsy-turvy, and have to react to what's going on, as opposed to even caring where you started. But there is that moment, right? And it does lend to game feel, as like when you're feeling that you're starting on the side that you're comfortable with versus the side that you're not comfortable with. To me, I think that this is sort of a design flaw more than anything in the game. Like, because if you want to train, you should be able to practice starting on the opposite side that you're used to, right? You should be able to say, well, I want to start at player 2. I want to start as player 2 by default so I can get used to starting on the side that I'm not used to starting on, right? So that's something that future game programmers can try to implement and say, hey, I'm going to start on this side of the screen, and I'm going to go this way to start, just so I get comfortable with that feeling, so that it matters less when we're in a competitive scene. But basically, going back a little bit, so when it happens if players have a dispute, so that's the reason that they're disputing over the seat, like why it's important to one player over the other. Basically, what ends up happening is that the EVO rules are players can say that they prefer a seat. The other player, their opponent, can either agree to making that switch and not caring and switching seats, or they can contest and say, well, no, I want to be player 1. So that's what Goichi did before their second set, before the final fight. Goichi's like, well, no, I don't want to move my seat from player 1. So basically they come in, person tosses a coin. SonicFox, being a furry, picked tails, all right? And picking tails paid off for him because that's what it ended up landing. SonicFox ended up getting the first player's position. They had a final fight, and SonicFox did extremely well during those final matches, and he came home with the championship. Now, fans were like, like Goichi fans were particularly like, what the heck, man? You were unsportsmanlike. You ebbed the flow, man, the flow. So basically, it all came down to a little coin toss, right? So, that's what it felt like to some of the fans, and some of the fans were irate over that, particularly Goichi fans. And at the end of the day, I always say it this way, is that when it comes to sports and when it comes to environmental factors, is that the players play under the rules that are established, not under the rules that the fans of particular players wish were input. So basically, SonicFox was well within his rights to make that request under the current rule set, and Goichi was in his rights to contest, and so they coin flipped. And that was how that particular thing ended up. Now, it says a lot that a lot of people are saying that these players are so good and so close, like in skill, that something as seems as trivial as like having side switched during the second half of the match would make such a large difference. SonicFox himself in a tweet indicated that he was more comfortable with player 1 position, and it could have really gone south for him if he was forced to retain the player 2 position. And that shows that these two know that they are skilled. They are very, very closely skilled with one another, and SonicFox wasn't going to take any little edge that he could get that it was his right to have under the rules. So it's interesting in that factor, because a lot of people were like, well, why did SonicFox not do that, ask for this seat switch in the first match when he was up 0-1? I think it was because he wanted to see if he could take it on player 2 side, because he knew he had a win advantage. So he wanted to see, I want to challenge myself to try and beat this guy starting in player 2 position. And if that doesn't work, I'll try to switch seats when it comes to the final match. And that's what he did, and it ended up working out in his favor. But him having to ask outwardly to a referee or an authority sort of made like Goichi fans point the finger and go, he's being unsportsmanlike. But it's like, that's what the rules currently are. Now, in order to avoid that sort of stipulation, I think the best thing that tournaments like this can do is make it sort of a mandatory thing. Like, make it so that, you know, it's sort of like the start of a football game, an American football game, where they have to pick what side of the field they want to do, or if they want to kick and receive first. So basically, whoever wins the coin toss can make one of two decisions that they prioritize first. They can either receive the football, which is most of the times when somebody wins the coin toss, 90% of the time they pick, well, I want to receive the football first and try and score a touchdown. That's 95% of the time that's what people do when they win the coin toss in an American football match. They'll go, I want to go for that side and I want to try and score first. Because having first offense is a strong thing. It's sort of like being the white pieces on a chessboard. You have first move. They could also say, well, I want to go for that side of the field. Like, I want to have my goal be on that end of the field. Like, what is your territory and what's their territory? You can also pick and choose that. That has a little less impact unless it's a really windy day and like the football, like the wind is going in your favor one way or the other. So usually the person who loses the coin toss gets to pick that kind of thing. But I'm nerding about rule sets and stuff like that. This is why no one watches any freaking sports with me, because I start nerding off about like the rules and how things work. But basically, what I'm saying is that like the whole like, what seat do I get to sit in? That shouldn't be up to the player to go to the authorities and say, hey, man, I want to switch seats. And the other guy goes, well, I don't want to switch seats. Oh, well, we got a conflict here. I need to call in this guy to flip a coin. It's like the person in charge should walk to the people about ready to go in every single match and go, what player position do you want to play? What position do you want to play? Okay, we have a conflict. Flip a coin. Done. All right, we're good. No player had to be the catalyst to make that go. It shouldn't be up to the player to say, hey, we should discuss which seat we want to sit in, right? And it should be that before each and every match, that should be something that's sort of resolved, right? So to me, when it comes to the whole coin tossing thing, I think it would be well in the interests of those who run these particular matches and particular tournaments that they make that a standard before every game, and not just like go, well, if the players want to have a hash it out, then they can bring it up. But it's like, no, you don't want to do that because the audience wants things to keep moving, number one. The audience wants things to have a flow to it, to have a natural flow to it. When a player has to speak up about an issue, it feels like the player is whining, right? So let's say at the beginning of a football game, like a person walks out and goes, well, I want to receive the football first. Well, do you want to receive the football first? You players are disagreeing. Let's flip a coin. They just do it, right? That's just what they do, and the person who wins can decide what they want to decide. So basically, you can do that. I mean, you can even not even engage the players at all. Like, as like, what seat do you want? What seat do you want? You can just flip a coin and say, what coin to flip? What you call heads or tails? All right. It's heads. Okay, you win. What seat do you want? And the other one gets the other seat automatically. Boom. No interaction of having to communicate with players and players having to communicate more than they are, and they can just focus on the game and getting ready to go without having to worry about, oh, well, in the rule sets, I can, like in all this, like unneeded social interaction is what I'm saying. Because us furries, we don't like, we want to try and get the rules to make it so that things move smoothly and don't have as much social interaction. I can't speak for SonicFox. He seems like an outgoing person. But me, it's like, I would rather have the rules just solve the problems for me, all right? And it would make it more clear to the audience, too. Like, this is how the rules work, instead of, like, going, well, he's doing something weird, and I don't like it. You know, so that's just my opinion on it. I guess that was a big rant about the whole thing. The memes on it were kind of funny, though. Like, this whole tier list thing. So for those of you not in the video game know, tier lists are things that you usually put characters that you're fighting in. Like, if a character is really, really good, you'll put them in an S rank. If a character is really, really bad, Melee is a very big one that has this sort of tier list. Fox is usually in a very top tier. Marth is usually in a very top tier, whereas like Donkey Kong or Mewtwo would be like not very played because competitively they have a disadvantage and stuff like that. So after the whole tournament thing went down, here we have like, oh, B, A. SonicFox on the player 2 side is an A rank. Goichi on the left side is an S rank. And SonicFox on the left is an SS rank. So apparently you don't want to mess with SonicFox when he's on the player 1 position. But then again, like, I don't know if I agree with this list entirely. I'm just overanalyzing it. You know, because Goichi on that second match, you know, was on the second player thing, so you'd have to have the players facing the opposite way. And then when you have these players down here, it's like they're facing left and right. So, like, are the players worse when they're facing the other way? Like when they're like, so there's not consistency here, man. I mean, I'm just nerding out about a silly meme, but yeah. So like that was kind of cute and that was kind of funny. The fan art was also pretty excellent, and if you go to SonicFox's Twitter feed, particularly for those particular days, there's a bunch of them. One of my favorite ones was him as that cat guy, god of destruction. Boris is. I'm not a big Dragon Ball Z nerd. I'm a Dragon Ball Z nerd, but I haven't really watched the Super ones all that much. So, like, I think his name was, it starts with a B. I know it does. It's the cat dude, the Lord of Destruction. And he had SonicFox dressed up in his garb. And it was kind of badass. I loved it. But anyways, SonicFox is certainly making a name for himself. Some people have called him a goat, which kind of threw me back because, I mean, obviously he's a fox, but what a GOAT is it's the acronym in sports for greatest of all time. To me, greatest of all time, unfortunately, I'm biased, so I'm never going to be able to tell if SonicFox is the greatest of all time or not. Being a furry myself, I cover him as part of the furry fandom news. So I'm not going to be able to dictate whether or not SonicFox is one of the it becomes the greatest of all time. A greatest of all time in my mind is usually a sports athlete that's known for somebody who doesn't nerd off about sports a lot. So as I said earlier, a Muhammad Ali, a Babe Ruth, or and even Babe Ruth sort of over the years. I think there's been some like larger baseball ones, but I'm not a big baseball follower. But I do know that like he was the greatest of his time for sure, and or at least well known for his time. I don't know. Like I'm not a big sports nerd. There's other people who might combat that. Michael Jordan, but then again, Michael Jordan's come under like a little thing lately where what was his name? LeBron James. A lot of people have been talking about him lately. And him being very charitable and doing good things for his communities. So, like, it's hard for me to dictate whether or not Sonic the Fox will ever become a GOAT. But as I said in my article, in the link to the description below, to be a GOAT, you gotta be hungry. And you can open up a can with your mouth. Open up a can of whoop arse with your mouth. Crunch, yeah. So those are the two things that make a GOAT. They're always hungry and they can open up a can of whoop arse with their mouth. And certainly, SonicFox has done both of those things, but he's got to continue to do both of those things if he gets name recognition outside of the whole esports fandom and the furry fandom. Then for sure, I think he will have made it as a GOAT, for sure. Unfortunately, as I said, I'm not going to be able to dictate something like that because I'm in the furry fandom, so I'm going to be watching his prowess and watching and doing that. As a person who grew up playing video games myself, I'm always interested in watching video game and competitive video gaming. So it's sort of, I'm within at least a little bit of that nerdy thing. So me being able to dictate whether he's popular or a big household name outside of the furry fandom bubble or the esports bubble, I'm not going to be able to dictate that. But, well, if he does, then I wonder what commercial he'll take for his first commercial deals. He's going to do the Car Fox thing. Is he going to be the Car Fox? Don't be the Car Fox, man. Dude, you know, for esports, it'll probably be something for like computers or like controllers or some energy drink of some description. But we'll see where that goes when it gets there. Anyways, I'm going to get the hop out of here. This is a cute little thing to ramble on about. Congratulations to SonicFox for kicking arse at EVO and doing the furry fandom proud for being himself. I think a lot of people, as much as I like to nerd off about stats and games and things like that, there is a human element to it, and that, you know, somebody can, you know, dress in their furry costume, say, yeah, I'm a furry, who cares, and do the thing that they got to do and do it well, so that despite despite the people that are, what's with the get up, you know, you got get up, right? You kick arse and you do what you got to do, in spite of them going, well, what's with the weird costume? You know what I mean? And being yourself, because there's a lot of people out there who feel like everyone's trying to change who they are and trying to make them fit into this mold, and if you try to, in that sort of free spirit, it's like, you can't make me fit into a mold, you can't put me on the defensive, I'm going to break through and fight through it. And that's sort of his style, I think. And it's sort of his style both on the controller and off the controller. And I think that it really takes those who are more ordered, and it sort of throws a wrench into whatever they're going for. Maybe I'm just being a little more melodramatic about it. Maybe that's not what, his style, but I think that's his style. And I think it works really, really well for what he does. And I hope he continues to bring home the trophies. I hope he continues to prove himself, and I hope he continues to keep on his road of being hungry and on his road to being a GOAT. Because being a fox is cool, but being a fox GOAT, that's some badass right there. Anyways, and ending on that horrible pun, I'm going to get the hop out of here before I make anyone else sigh. So if you like the show, kick that like, hit the subscribe, kick a comment in the comment channel. Do you watch the esports scene a lot? How long have you been following SonicFox? Where do you think SonicFox will go next? Will he continue to fight for will he continue to be a top contender in the Dragonball FighterZ game, or will he, will another game come out and he conquer that one as well? So see you later. Anyways, I'll see you guys next week.